So it is August 3rd, and I have finally finished one book that I own in my Greek mythology reading challenge. So it belatedly occurred to me after I filmed the rest of this video that a lot of people aren't like they don't know every single Greek myth. So when I'm talking about this myth and that myth and this one, nobody's going to know what I'm necessarily talking about. So I thought I'd do a quick rundown, and hopefully I'll do this before every video talking about my Greek myth reads, just addressing the original mythology that I'm talking about. So the books that I cover in this one, they start with, there's a couple that talk about the Minotaur, one that talks about the Odyssey, one about Orpheus and Eurydice, which also has a little bit of Persephone and Hades, and Pandora. So it's a lot all in one. So I'll try to go in order. Now, a lot of people know the Minotaur. He is a half man, half bull monster creature who lives at the center of a labyrinth, which is like a giant maze. Actually, I learned the other day the difference between a maze and a labyrinth is that a maze is trying to keep you out, so you keep getting turned around closer to the outside, and a labyrinth is trying to keep you in, so it keeps trying to spin you inside so that you never leave. So he's in the middle of the labyrinth, and there's a lot of facets to his myth, but the main portion of it is that King Minos insulted the gods, and so they cursed him and his wife, the women paying for it, really, as they do. So she gives birth to the Minotaur, and it grows up within the family, and then eventually he's put into this labyrinth, and the king is mad at another city-state, and so he demands that they send 10 young men and women. It's like Hunger Games style. They're like, send me your children. I'm going to feed them to my Minotaur, who we were treating like my son like 5 minutes ago. Greek mythology is so messed up. So that's the Minotaur. That's the main part of the Minotaur. But like, so many of the Greek myths overlap in ways people don't know. So like the guy who slays the Minotaur is Theseus, who has so many of his own, like his story just keeps going. It's like birth to cradle. I think he even like kidnaps Helen of Troy at one point when she's like 5 years old. But there was only like one source for that, and that's the whole thing about mythology. It's an oral tradition. We don't have a ton of written down records, like as many as these stories would be told. And so because of that, we only have so many versions of it, and the less common stories we especially have even less knowledge about. That's the Minotaur. Then we have the women in the Odyssey. And this is a great time to mention it because Christopher Nolan, that great director who has never passed a Bechdel test in any single film he's ever made, he decided he's going to make his own version of the Odyssey, and we got the first trailer very recently. I saw it against my will while I was seeing Superman for the third time. I hate Christopher Nolan, and I hate him for all the same reasons I hate Odysseus, who is the star of the Odyssey. Just a lot of egotistical, ego-minded men who don't really think or consider women, period. But there are women in the Odyssey. The story of Odysseus, again, start at the beginning. The story of Odysseus is he's part of this big war. It's the Helen of Troy launched 1,000 ships. He's in the 1,000 ships. They all go to Troy. They fight Troy, Trojan War, and they all leave. They go home. Except Odysseus is trying to go home, but he pissed off one of the gods, as egotistical men are known to do. Poseidon is making it very difficult for him to sail home. But also, Odysseus just like casually lives with a number of other women for long periods of time. Like it takes him 12 years to go from Troy to Greece, and it's just the Mediterranean. He's just crossing the Mediterranean. Everyone's like, oh, it's because Poseidon cursed him. It's also a lot of his own fault. Like, yes, Circe, she's a badass witch, and she's cool, and she's really hot, and she turns a bunch of men into pigs, and a lot of them are his men. He's the only man on his ship who gets home. He doesn't like do anything to protect his men at all. And yeah, she's hot, Odysseus, but you've got a wife not only waiting for you at home very loyally, but she is also being harassed endlessly by a bunch of other men. I hate Odysseus so much. He's the worst. And everyone's like, he's the greatest hero in Greece. He's the worst! And so was Christopher Nolan. I thought, yeah, I'll get some sun, get my vitamin D while I do this, but now I'm obviously baking. So we're gonna try to slide into the shade here. That's the Odyssey, and that's how much I hate the Odyssey. Then I talk about Orpheus and Eurydice, but the book actually opens. The book that that is a retelling of it actually opens with Persephone and Hades, which I also mentioned in my first video on Greek myth. Let's go over that one real quick first, because I loved the way it walked you from Persephone's myth into Orpheus and Eurydice. The Hades and Persephone myth gets super romanticized these days, as I mentioned before, but the gist of the myth is Hades is lonely and sad in the underworld, and also annoyed at his brother Zeus, as always. So he sees this lovely girl, goddess of spring, tricks her, kidnaps her, and steals her away to the underworld. While he has her, he convinces her to eat 6 pomegranate seeds in the underworld, and then she's stuck there forever, she thinks. But her mother, Demeter, who is like the goddess of agriculture, farming, barley, all the things, she's raging havoc, like literal scorched earth policy, where nothing will grow on earth, and the humans are starving to death, and the gods are like, we should probably do something about that. And so they call up Hades, they negotiate, and so the deal is, because she ate something in the underworld, part of her like belongs to the underworld, so Persephone is going to stay in the underworld for half the year, 6 months, 6 seeds, and then the other half she'll be with her mother. And so a lot of people like to romanticize this for various reasons. They like to see Hades as like, sad, lonely boy, and he didn't really trick Persephone, or he didn't really attack her. He just borrowed her for a little while and scared her half to death, but then she chose to stay. I'm like, no, that's not the whole purpose of like where this myth comes from is a song about Demeter. And in that song about Demeter, it's all about how a mother's rage, like mothers will go to the ends of the earth to rescue their daughters. It's about Demeter, so it's definitely not meant to be romantic whatsoever. Although by like Greek standards, it's not the worst. It's they were messed up. So anyway, Persephone is like stuck living down there. And so she gets to see everything going on in the underworld, including when Orpheus comes down to the underworld. You see, Orpheus, he's a human. He fell in love with this girl, Eurydice, and she dies tragically. Orpheus is so distraught, so devastated, that he walks himself to the underworld, which is a very long walk, and there's a lot of things in your way to stop you, like the big 3-headed dog that guards the underworld. But Orpheus is such a beautiful musician. He brings his lyre, his little harp, with him, that he puts everyone to sleep or relaxes them and puts them at ease, so that he passes. He makes it all the way to like Hades' castle, his throne, and he's like, "Hey, my dude, can I have my wife back?" And Hades is like, "No, that's not how this works." But he plays his song again and enchants Persephone so much, and like he like pauses time, like everything stops in the underworld. Everyone's just listening, even the people being tortured and tormented in parts of the underworld. Like everyone just listens. And it's ah. And so they're like, all right, yeah, whatever. But the one thing is, you can't turn around and look back. You have to make sure, as you're walking out of the underworld, don't look back. She'll follow you, but don't check. Don't look back to see if she's following you. And there's a few different versions of this where he looks back because he doesn't trust them or doesn't trust Eurydice to follow him. There's versions where he looks back when he's left the underworld, but she's still like 2 feet behind him. So he looks back, just he got his timing wrong. Various things, but the big tragedy is he looks back, and then Eurydice has gone from him forever. Over the years, a lot of women have stepped up to say maybe it was Eurydice who whispered, "Turn around," because she didn't want to go back. Would she have returned like as half a shade, she never has a voice in the originals, and so a lot of women have tried to give her a voice in their retellings and stories now. And the final myth I want to cover is one of the origin myths, like creation myths, and that's Pandora. And Pandora is another one people are really familiar with because of, Pandora's box. But actually, it wasn't a box, you guys. That's a mistranslation. It was a jar. It was a big Greek vase, okay? And it had like a cover on top. The main point of Pandora's story is that Zeus is mad at these 2 guys. I don't think they're fully human, but they're like semi-human. So he's mad at these 2 guys, and One of them he like tortures forever in the underworld, and then the other one, his brother, he's like, I'm gonna curse him by giving him a wife. And that wife is Pandora, and she's the first human woman. And that's the whole point, is that she's the first human woman. She's the creation myth, and all the gods work together to create her. They craft her out of clay. They imbue her with gifts. They make her into these things. Everybody gives her all the, the gift of weaving from Athena, all these things. And then Zeus hands her this vase, and that's it. There's no record of him say, like, in any of these myth scraps that we have from ancient Greece. None of them say, "Hey, don't open that." He just hands it to her. Some popular essentially retellings of this myth, translations of the myth, very loose translations, from Nathaniel Hawthorne. Really, he's the real guy who ruined Pandora. Are the ones who like said it's a box, said she's not supposed to open it, and then had her women's curiosity. She had to open it, and then she unleashed all the horrible things onto the world. War, grief, all the horrible things that humans do to each other. But in the jar stays hope. And it's such a weird thing to think about, because you're like, okay, does that mean there's no hope in the world because it's still in the jar? She keeps it? Or is the jar keeping hope safe? Are all those other things let out of the jar so they're not like protected or controlled? I don't know. There's really a failed logic, I feel like, because I don't think you can ever say the world is hopeless. I mean, things can feel really hopeless, but then you get really good new Superman movies and they make you feel like, hey, this world might be a terrible place, but I can be a good person, and that's something. And again, that's the whole point of like myths and stories. So yeah, so that's all of, I think, the myths I talk about in this one. I'm going to try to remember. I want this to be Greek myth for beginners. So if you don't know anything about Greek mythology, you can come here. I'll cover the myth for you. I'll cover the different versions, like what people have gotten wrong and what they think about over the years, and why the new retellings are so good. Because I started B. Fitzgerald's Pandora one, the green one, and it's already like incredible is an understatement. So please enjoy. You don't even know what I'm talking about yet because I talk about it later in this video. Enjoy! I've already adjusted my goals. My plan now is to finish all my Greek mythology books by the end of the year, December 31st, which sounds mostly more reasonable. Also, Percy Jackson season 2 is going to start coming out in December, so I'm hoping that'll all just like it feels right. It's all going to add up and build up the hype and be exciting. I just thought I'd do a quick update of what I have read and am reading and have finished so far. So first, as I said, mentioned in a reel, which I'm learning how to do reels or shorts. They're shorts on YouTube, whatever. This is the library book, but it was very short, so I was like, oh, this will get me started real quick and easy. But unfortunately, it was a bit too easy. So it's about if you can't tell, the Minotaur, and it's a novel in verse. So we have lots of poetry, but I don't know what the author thought he was achieving with this. It's very melodramatic. Like, do we really need a whole page just for like a word? Just for you to emphasize that? Like a good poet would know how to emphasize without needing dramatic page turnings. Like what? It says whatevs. Maybe this was sorry, I got distracted by a review on the back as they have them, and it's like, this book does for mythology what Lin-Manuel Miranda's Hamilton has done for U.S. history. No, this is nowhere. No. Point being is that it was almost like too easy, but I'm gonna take it as a sign that like the books you own are the good ones. Focus on those. Ignore the library. The book that I actually own that I finished is These Great Athenians, which is another novel in verse. This one also was a bit dramatic where you just have like one word at the top, but it made more sense in this one. All the poems, like it has a bunch of different sections, all with different colors, and each section focus on a character from the Odyssey, a female character. And the first one for Penelope was so brilliant that I was just like so excited because Penelope's story is that she's got all these people who are like, hey, your husband's dead, which he's not, but no one can find him. And all her suitors, they're all like, I want to marry you so that I can become king. And she tells them, okay, I will finally choose someone when I finish this weaving project I'm working on. but instead she weaves every day in front of them, and then every night she unplucks what she's woven, like very carefully. It's very hard work, it's intense. And so the book, there's like a series of poems that are almost alike. Like they use so much of the same language, but they change a little word here and a change a little word there, almost as though like, here's what you made, now undo it, now do it again, but it's going to be slightly different from how you did it yesterday. And I thought that was brilliant. But then they kind of copied that same form for a lot of other women in the book, which, I mean, some of them also weave, but not in the same, like it's not as big as it is for Penelope. And then out of nowhere at the end, it's just like, hi, what if all these women were gathered in modern day in a women's bathroom? Okay, sure. Why not? And I get why they did that and all of that, but I feel like the introduction to that space could have been handled better because you're just like, what? We were just we were just in ancient Greece 2 seconds ago. A bunch of people were getting murdered, and now we're in a woman's bathroom. So it was interesting and different. And actually, when I made my original video about all the Greek myth books I wanted to read, I need to read. This one wasn't even on my shelf because it arrived afterwards because I had just bought it because I'm a problem. You can understand why they're taking me time. So like Medusa's Sisters is really good. Beautiful writing and all of that. And it feels like I've been reading it for like 4 years, but I'm on page 44 because it's just so dense and packed full of mythology and name. And it's like a from birth, like literally the first chapter is when Medusa was born. So it's going to be like a birth to death biography told by her sisters. I'm hoping there'll be some more plot moving versus just character. We'll see. But that, yeah, so that one's taken me quite some time. I've also been reading Memento Mori, which is a very different kind of retelling, and it's really short and like it's small, but each chapter is like a page. It's a retelling of Orpheus and Eurydice. There's been a lot of retellings already, but this one's very different, and it focuses on a Korean woman, and it's really quite brilliant. It's modern, and it's really quite brilliant how they're making this whole like come back from the dead kind of thing. You're not quite sure if you're reading like while she's recovering from a mental health episode, if you're just like reading her recovery, or like if this is like her suicide letter or what. And it's quite good. I don't usually read like literary fiction like this, but I'm glad I did, but B, it's very heavy and dark, as you can imagine. So that's why it's taken some time, even if the chapters are really short. And then the one I've been enjoying the most is Once a Monster, which, as you can tell from the cover, also focuses on the Minotaur. And the idea is like the Minotaur is immortal, and so he's just been living forever since the ancient Greece, and now he's washed up in Victorian London, and he meets this little girl who helps him, and now they've just kind of become like they're helping each other, but it's very cute. It's like genuinely the only thing coming to mind is Wreck-It Ralph, where you've got this big beefy guy and this little girl, but that kind of narrative. I've been reading it more in the evening at night, so it's taking me time to get through it. Also, it's quite chunky. So yeah, so that's my progress after a month. Okay, we've got an update within an update. Here's sweet. Oh, you can't even see her. She's so sunbathed. There she is. There you are, Mimi. That's you. She says, no, thank you. On camera shy and just like belly rubs, please. So I just wanted to share that I finished this book, and it was just as heavy as expected. It made me cry, but it was so good and so well done. As I said, it's Orpheus and Eurydice, and it talks a lot about death and this idea of like bringing people back from the dead, bringing yourself back from the dead when you feel like you've died. Like, ugh, just it was so well done. It was so brilliant. This is like intense, serious stuff. I don't usually read this, but it blows you away. We also got another book in the mail. Actually, I did kind of buy 10 books over the weekend, but we're not going to address that. This one was a pre-order from the good old United Kingdom, and I had to get it because Oh, look at that. Like, the lighting's just right for her. Because B. Fitzgerald wrote three books, and this is the third one. I was like, well, I have the other two, and this has the beautiful edges, and it's going to match. I think I'm going to read them backwards. They don't really go in a line. They're just three Greek mythology related stories. And the first one was Persephone and Hades, as I said, that's the very popular. The second one was Helen of Troy and Cassandra, Sapphic romance, and I've been really excited to read that one. But I knew her third one was coming, and the third one is about Pandora, which Pandora is the equivalent of Eve, in the Garden of Eden, to, honestly, they're the same person. Like, just think about them conceptually. Anyways, to Pandora in Greek mythology. She's the first woman, she makes a mistake that unleashes a lot of things onto the world. But she was also like, did that happen because of God's will? It's incredible. And so I'm really excited to read this. So I think I'm going to read this one first. Love isn't the end of the world unless you're Pandora. Yeah. I've heard nothing but good things about her books, which is why I'm a psycho who bought all of her books before reading one. And like, they're just so gorgeous. Like, you can't tell, but like, this is all embossed. So like, you can feel this in your fingers, which is just really special. This like Greek vase pattern. I love it. I love it. So, ooh, and we even have the, oh! Okay, so I was like, oh, that's lovely, but, oh, look at that. Oh, gorgeous. Oh my God, I wonder, I never looked at my other one. All right, this is the Cassandra one. I don't think I ever took the dust jacket off of this one. Look at that. Those are the walls of Troy, the city of Troy. Those are the Greek ships arriving or leaving Greece. Whew. Oh, and this also has like the emboss. You can feel that pattern on your fingers. Wow, that's so special. So you can see why I was just like, yeah, I'll buy them. Thank you. I'll take them. As I said, it's going very poorly, but it will be fine. Yeah, I'm gonna try and do it by the end of the year, and just keep reading. It does feel like the end of the world a lot of the time. So that's why this is really great. Anyways, okay, bye.